I start my fig cuttings in these 3/4 gallon containers here. I've had these for years, love them. And I write the variety of the cutting on the side here in white paint marker. This one was a gift that came with this order here, the Smith, Becknell Smith, which I don't know if it's any better, but anyway, so I've got it in the microwave here. I've got 3 of them here, 2 Smith and a Super Jumbo DK. And I'm going to microwave these to sterilize the mix. Now the mix is 1 5-gallon bucket of peat moss, sphagnum, 1 5-gallon bucket of aged rice hulls, and 3/4 of a 5-gallon bucket of perlite. This is a mixture I use, very common in my containers, in everything. So yeah, so I'm putting them in the microwave. I'm going to heat them. I've got a thermometer. I'm going to check the internal temperature, but I'm going to do it 4 minutes at a time. I do smaller containers at 1 minute at a time, but I'm going to do it 4 minutes at a time. I'm going to look what the internal temperature is, and I'm going to get it up really high. And all I'm trying to do here is to keep the new fig cuttings from getting any kind of damage from fungus or bacteria or anything like that. And heating mix, whether it's in the oven or in the microwave or whatever, sterilizes it. Kills bugs, it kills fungus, it kills disease. If you get it high enough, it's a good thing. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll plant my figs in it, my cuttings. All right, this is the first go. I've already got the thermometer turned on. Let's look and see what we get. I want to get over 150, preferably to 165 or so. So at 4 minutes, we're right around 120 degrees. So I need to get the temperature up more. It's time to microwave. Round 2. Let's see if I can get out of the light this time. Be helpful. Turn that light on and tilt this up. All right, I'm at 167 and it's climbing slowly still. So I'm about 168 to 170, and that is all I need. These are the 3 cuttings that are going to go in those containers. And I want to show you those. This is one of them, and it's kind of weak. You can see marked the brand Smith. I got a viable bud here, but that's going to be underneath the ground. There's one up here that may be iffy, and one here that doesn't really have a bud you can see very well. So it's got 3 buds on it. And so that was one of the 2 I paid for, which is disappointing. So I got these in water, by the way, and wrapped. If they have a cut end, I have these 2 wrapped. And this one is the other Smith. And it is loaded with buds. I'm trying to see here. And so I'm going to hedge my bets here. I normally cut off a portion here when I go to root it anyway, normally, like I've been doing this forever, right? Beginning of this year was the first time. So what I'm going to do is do some chip grafting with these 2 buds here before I stick them in the dirt, this whole cutting. And so I'm going to hedge my bets, so to speak. I'm going to take 2 buds, chip/bud graft them onto another tree in an attempt to keep from losing this Smith variety that I want in my collection. So I'm going to show you that now. And the tree I'm talking about, I didn't do any air layering on. So I should be able to get, I may even do one of these on it, I'm not sure, probably not. I got a little grafting knife coming, should be in tomorrow, but these came today and I need to go ahead and get them done. So I'm using these razor blades as a form of a grafting tool. The only grafting I've ever done really is large grafting with the pear trees. I put pear and apple onto a Cleveland Select flowering pear, and I can't remember the tools I used. That was 8 or 10 years ago. Anyway, and the only other I've done is tomato grafting, and I've got really small razor blades for that, but I have to cut through these cuttings, so I have a thick razor blade here that I sanitized. I'm also going to use zip ties to secure it, and grafting tape to wrap it up, and these will cut the zip ties. But I've never seen anybody use zip ties before, and what I found with tomato grafting is that that fell over, that if you can secure the graft tightly, it seems to have a little better success. So I'm going to do that, even though I haven't seen them do it in the fig world. This fig here is the only one I did an air layer, and it's a duplicate of the Adriatic JH here, which is a very tasty fig. I actually got to taste it this year. So I'm going to graft onto this one lower, and up here I'm going to cut it off probably about 30 inches or so after I do the chip bud grafting, so that the what's it called, the apical dominance, the tree tries to grow up this way. So if it's sending all the energy to the very tip, it doesn't try to supply growth and stimulation to anything that's lower. Like, let me show you here. Like here, once I set that one on, that air layer, it started spitting out all of these little shoots. And so that one did it, and this one over here did it a little bit. But anyway, what I'm saying is that it's likely it could die off if I don't cut it back. I have to do it anyway this winter. I was going to do it when it was dormant, but with this particular tree, I'm going to cut it off after I chip and bud graft it. In grafting, the plant that's rooted, it stays rooted, is called the rootstock, and the cut pieces are called scions. And so to do this, I'm going to have to do it pretty quick, so I'm not sure how much I'm going to be talking, because there's a danger that it could dry out and that would limit the success. So I'm going to do it, and I'll talk a little as I go. I'm going to try to go between the buds. Let me try to figure out where I want to do it. I want to do it right here. And the first thing you do is you cut down into it a little bit like that, and then you come above it and you slice down to that cut, just like that. And then you make a similar cut. See, I'm racing against the time now. You make a similar cut on the scion, which is a little harder because you have to cut through the bud, and I don't want to cut myself, so I'm going to start up here. And they say to rock it. Now, the only place I've ever seen this is online, so I'm doing it for the first time in front of you and I'm not using a knife. Oh, sliced that sucker right off, didn't I? Because it jerked through the bud, but at least it didn't hit me. So here, it's a little bit small, but I think it'll work because it's got the width right about here. It needs to, I'm going to put the scion back in the water, but it needs to make connection on the side where the cadmium layer is. And so I'm going to push it down a little bit. I'm going to take some grafting tape and I'm going to put it around just like everybody else online does. Let me make sure I got it facing the right direction. Do I have it facing the right direction? the wider piece is at the top. So yep, that was a leaf right here. Gotta make sure I do it right, huh? When you're wrapping, you can wrap as much as you want, but when you come across the bud, it says it needs to be one layer so that it can break through. And I don't have quite enough of the grafting tape here, so I'm going to take a little bit more here, and I'm going to wrap it some more. All right, so the one thing I didn't mention, I just thought of, is that I have to put a little piece of foil kind of dangle over this so the sun doesn't bake that, because the sun will go right through that and it'll create a high heated area like a greenhouse would do. So now I'm going to take 2 of these zip ties, maybe even 4, and put it above and below and make sure that these create a tight contact between the scion bud and the rootstock mother plant. I guess it's if you call it a mother plant. Okay, I've got these little things I showed you here, little snips that cut through zip ties really easily. I use them a lot for zip ties. All right, I'm going to do 2 more here. I don't want to waste your time doing that. And hopefully that little bud will take. And hopefully we will know before it gets too cold. It's the beginning of October. And I'll hold off on putting this video out until I see it works or not. Well, I can hope that these take, but I can tell you that I am definitely not good at this now. First time. I got one here, and I put one over here on the side so it's facing this way, and this one's at 3, this one here is at 3, and this one down here is at 6, if you will, on the clock face. It looked like there was something over here trying to start too, potentially, and that may bud out after the top is cut out of this tree. But this is where I took the 2 pieces from, and I'm gonna go bury those in the dirt now. All right, I've got my Smith, and my Super Jumbo DK here. I took and I cut similar to the others here. This is the one for the chip budding here, and this one is the one that didn't have a whole lot on it, but hopefully that'll come through for me too. I also cut a piece out. Now I've got a rooting hormone called Dip and Grow here that a lot of people say is good, and they say to dip it for 5 seconds, which I'm going to do, and then put it in your rooting hormone. But I'm going to dip it for 5 seconds, and I'm going to let it air dry a little bit, and I'm telling you that now because I just took these out of the water and it's got regular water on it and they're wet. I don't want to wait for them to dry a little bit before I put them in the Dip and Grow, and then dry a little bit before I put them in the mix. So I'll bring you back after I dip them, but it's just real simple. Just dip it in and wait 5 seconds. All right, they've dried. I've put rooting hormone on them by dipping. And now I'm just taking a piece of, well, this is drip hose, just because it's close to the size here, and I'm just going to make a hole here, wallow it a little bit, and stuff these in to the point they need to be. And I'll water them in. The water just happens to be on, so that worked out. I need to get below, because this has a lot of buds on it. Okay, so I've got this already going, so that turned out to be all right. And that's all there is to it. I'll let this drain and I'm going to put it with the other figs. Now I want to show you something. I don't get direct light over here, and that's why I have these figs that I air layered here over here. It comes in a little bit to up to about right in here at one point, but most of the day it's shaded, and this is doing real good for me because I got to carry these into the grow room during the winter. But yeah, so I'll put those there. They should be fine. Now, before I covered them and I did all kinds of funky stuff, but I think I learned from doing these that they're a little more robust, and I'm hoping that they will do fine over here. I'll keep them, I check every single day. I'll keep them moist, and they have good drainage capability there, and the mix I use allows good drainage. I have my stuff out here, and what I ended up doing was I took a bud off the top of this Black Madeira, because Black Madeira grows the weakest out of all my figs. It's got a nice trunk, but it's not sprouting off anymore. I took 2 cuttings, and one of them is doing okay, but it's growing really slowly. And in fact, the other one is the only one that failed, is Black Madeira. So I went ahead and I chip budded. I took one from here. There's a node over here on the other side, right here, down here, that I hope will pop out, and this air layer will also be fine. But I want to take you over to it. And this is where I ended up putting it. It was right here. And this was the best one, and it matched the most. So the other 2 are down here. And you can see where I've zip tied them, 2 on each end, and then I put a piece of foil over it with a zip tie just to keep the sun from baking it. I got to do the same thing up here, but this tree will end up being a multiple tree. I'm going to graft, or chip bud graft, a couple other places here to about right here, and then I'm going to cut it off. And I don't know if it's going to remain a multiple fig tree, or if I'm just using it as insurance until hopefully these grow out and I can air layer those or make more cuttings off of them or something like that as extra insurance. So we'll see. So I've got 6 bud grafts on here. The bottom 2 are Smith, new cultivar I got, and I lifted the cover up so you could see it. The next 2 are Black Madeira here and here. I need to move this tape up. But this Black Madeira is here and here. And this tape is for the next 2, which is Ron de Bordeaux. And that's also a new cultivar. So I've got Black Madeira on there because I'm trying to see if I can improve Black Madeiras by grafting it, and also propagating it this way with the buds. And I've got the other 2, the Smith and the Ron de Bordeaux, on this one as well. The last thing I need to do, besides put the foil above each set of grafts, is cut it off. And I set a mark at 30 inches right here on the tree here. So I'm about to cut that so that all the auxins, all the hormones aren't going to the very tip way up there to create new foliage, new leaves and all that, and that it starts concentrating down here and pushing the buds, and probably new buds down here will form for the Adriatic JH, which this is the rootstock. So we'll see. I'll cut that off and I'll show you that real quickly. That's it, all 6, and she's cut off up there, and this is what I cut off. It's going to make a lot of cuttings, and I don't know what I'm going to do with them. Root them probably, at least a couple of them. And then I don't know, I might try to sell some for the first time on FigBit or something. So this is the status of my Bud-Grafting. You can tell the Adriatic JH is starting to grow back out from the top bud here, as well as here. I've got a Ronde Bordeaux here that doesn't look like it's popping, and one over here. I'm hoping one of those two will pop. I've got a Black Madeira here that hasn't popped yet, but I've got one here that does look pretty good, and down here I have a Smith, looks like it's popping, and then one over here that may not. So I've got at least two possibles, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to graft onto the top of this with a white Madeira, and I just thought it would be, you know, kind of a cool thing, so I ordered a cutting, and this is part of that cutting. I'm rooting the other part of the cutting, but I took a small piece there to graft onto that. This is the Scion piece, white Madeira. It's pretty sloppy, but it's done. I've got the JH growing out of this side, so I'll put the bud on this side. So now I need to cover it to keep the humidity up while it hopefully takes. There, bagged it. Last thing I want to do is show you the three cuttings. Well, they're looking today. This Super Jumbo DK, it has leafed out, which is good. The Smith, that particular cutting, which is the one I was most worried about, has leafed out. And this one over here is not looking great. That's the one I took the buds from. It's not leafing out, but it may.